So the church building. So the rites should be distinguished by a noble simplicity. They should be short, clear, and unencumbered by useless repetitions. So you hear that and you're like, wait a second, like useless repetitions. Well, here we go. So this is the pre-Vatican II Mass, 1962, and this is what we have now. And this is up until the Gloria, okay? So in the old rite, and this is of course all in Latin, right? So we start with the sign of the cross, and then there's a prayer that we would respond to. There's a recitation of a psalm, then the Confiteor, then 3 more sets of prayers and responses, then the Kyrie, like Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, right? And then the Gloria, right? So we're really adding up here, and this is right for the Gloria, right? So then in the new rite, right, we have the sign of the cross, the Lord be with you, prepare yourselves, reflect on your conscience, right? The Confiteor, or the other 2 options for the penitential rite, right? I confess, or have mercy on us, O Lord, for against sin against you, that one. Or the tropes, you extend heal the contrite of heart, that one. And there's some options for that, right? If my director of liturgy, who taught me the diaconate class, like, we memorized those so we would know them and be prepared for diaconate and priesthood. So hopefully I get an A+ for that, huh? Then also, too, we enter into the Kyrie, the Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, if it's not already found in the penitential rite, and then the Gloria. So this is what we're referring to when we talk about the elimination of some repetitions or some simplifications. That's what we're kind of referring to. Not to mention the series of incensations that you had to do, or the certain secret prayers you had to do that have been simplified. Not to mention what they had to wear, or the vesting prayers that can still be used today but are required. A lot of changes, a lot of layers, a lot going on, right? So here's a little note. So I spent 10 weeks as a hospital chaplain in the context of our seminary formation. That's what we do for 10 weeks. And I noticed in the charts that the nurses would write the word rites, but they meant like last rites. So when you spell that out, I just put that out there, it's R-I-T-E-S. It's referring to the rites of viaticum, receiving communion before you pass, confession, and anointing. Now it's one of those changes highlighted really quick here. Extreme unction is what we talked about before, and now we talk about anointing of the sick. So it used to be before, you'd wait to like the very end, try and wait. Extreme unction, that's when you're ready to die, then you die. But what would happen is that people would wait so long that they wouldn't receive anointing and they die before they haven't received it, right? But now, don't worry. Anointing of the sick, there's certain conditions by what it means to be sick, to be anointed, and it also is entailing forgiveness of sins to prepare you to meet God. But not necessarily. Okay, so it's like that. It's a little bit of change in understanding of that sacrament. So what's important is if you're going to receive anointing or a loved one's going to receive anointing, don't wait till they're unconscious. Don't wait till it's too late. Just get them anointed, calm their fears. It's okay. This is not about necessarily that you're imminently going to pass away. So here's another thing, change gears here, right? So the Second Vatican Council, what do you think? Talked about how it was important to change liturgical spaces like this into liturgical spaces like this. So this is the same chapel that's before renovation and after renovation. And if you know the chapel that's not in our diocese, or if you know the renovator, I'm not trying to make any controversial statement or anything, but all I'm saying is, true or false, the documents talked about in the context that it was important to change spaces from this to this. False, right? So when you go back and look at it, noble simplicity, when I talked about simplifying the rites, like for example in Mass, it's talking about the rites. It's not talking about beauty in the liturgical space. That's talking about noble beauty, when we hear that in the documents, when it talks about art and architecture. Not noble simplicity in terms of how we build our churches or liturgical spaces. But it goes to say, though, that these kind of renovations became more popular in the wake after the Second Vatican Council because it was a cultural preference of the church here and around the world. So another example would be like, how many of you have ever seen red carpet in the sanctuary of the church? Red carpet. Like I grew up with that red carpet too. and it's still in many of our parishes in the diocese. Like, there was nothing here that said that you had to have red carpet, right? It was just a style of the time. It's just what people did. And I guess if you think about it practically, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think why red was so important to emphasize. Maybe there's like a theological symbolism or meaning, but that I'm just not aware of. But just another preference, right? So, but wait, for example, we talk about art, beauty, architecture. It says during their philosophical and theological studies, clerics, the seminarians, people praying to be priests, are to be taught about the history and development of sacred art. They will be able to appreciate and preserve the church's venerable monuments and be in a position to aid by good advice artists who are engaged in producing works of art. So that doesn't mean then that the priest just goes on and renovates how he wants, but there should be some consultation with architects, with artists, people that have the knowledge of the liturgical life of the church before they start renovating space, and some consultation to happen, right? So, last thing here, some key takeaways from tonight, some key things to think about, and then we'll have a little bit of time for a Q&A. But when you hear the words Spirit of Vatican II, just remember, there might be something a little bit different as to what the document said. So approach that with a little bit of like, oh, did the documents really say that? Or is that something that has been a preference or something that's been changed later because of the life of the church has continued to change? Or, for example, remember that idea of active participation is something that's so crucial. The idea of offering yourself as a sacrifice to God in the context of Mass, to offer your full heart and soul to God. I really think that if Catholics fully understood not only what was happening in the context of Mass, but also what it meant to be engaged in Mass, to actively participate, to fully offer yourself to God in this context about how powerful that really is and what that means for us, then I really think there would be an overwhelming number of people that are not leaving our pews, and like my generation, for example, that's not fading away from the church. If they fully understood the power and the mystery of what's happening in the context of Mass. So just keep those things in mind, encourage yourself in them, maybe read about some of them, but also remind your loved ones about them too, and the people that you care about. That this is the power of the opportunity of what it means to attend Mass and to worship God. So, any questions? Any questions? We'll do a little bit of Q&A. Yeah?
One of the questions that you touching a little bit on architecture.